The card reader beeped once, then flashed red. Ethan Miller stared at it, confused, as the barista gently pushed the card back toward him. "I'm sorry," she said. "It's coming up declined." For a second, the cafe noise faded. The hiss of the espresso machine, the low talk of early morning customers, the soft indie song playing overhead. Ethan tried again, certain it was a mistake. Same result, declined. A tight feeling settled in his chest. This wasn't possible. Ethan wasn't rich, but he was careful. Paid bills on time. He kept savings. Planned his life in spreadsheets and quiet routines. Declined cards were things that happened to other people, reckless people, careless people, not him. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. The screen loaded. Then his stomach dropped. Checking account, $0 savings account, $0 emergency fund. $0.00. Every number he had built over years of discipline was gone. Ethan didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. He stepped outside the cafe into the cold October air, the smell of wet leaves sharp and real. His hands shook as he refreshed the app again and again, hoping the numbers would magically change. They didn't. That was when one name rose in his mind, heavy and unavoidable. Ryan, 2 weeks earlier, his younger brother had sat across from him at this same cafe, wearing that familiar half smile, the one that always came before trouble. Ryan had talked fast, full of energy and big plans. He said he had a business deal that needed quick funding. Said it was temporary. He said Ethan would barely notice the money was gone. "I just need access," Ryan had said. "You know, I'd never hurt you." Ethan had hesitated. He always did now. But Ryan was his brother. The kid he used to walk to school. The kid he used to defend from bullies. The kid who had grown into a man with big dreams and messy choices. Against his better judgment, Ethan had agreed. Standing on the sidewalk now, watching cars pass like nothing in the world had changed. Ethan understood the truth in one sharp, painful wave. Ryan hadn't borrowed the money. Ryan had taken it. Ethan called him immediately, straight to voicemail. He tried again, same result. He sent a text, "Call me now." No response. By the time Ethan reached his office downtown, the panic had settled into something colder. He worked in finance. He knew how systems worked. And he knew that what Ryan had done wasn't small. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. During his lunch break, Ethan called the bank. He sat in a glass conference room, watching people walk by outside, while a calm voice explained transaction after transaction. Transfers, withdrawals, account closures. Everything authorized using credentials Ethan had shared with Ryan. Legally. It was clean. Morally, it was devastating. When he got home that evening, the apartment felt different, too quiet, too small. His girlfriend, Claire Thompson, was already there, curled up on the couch with her laptop. She looked up and immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. Ethan sat down slowly, like his body weighed twice as much as usual. "Ryan emptied my accounts." Claire's face went still. "All of them." He nodded. She closed her laptop and moved closer, listening as Ethan explained what little he knew. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't curse. The calmness scared him more than anger would have. "I feel stupid," he admitted. "Not because of the money, because I thought he'd changed." Claire reached for his hand. "You trusted family. That's not stupid." But Ethan wasn't convinced. That night, sleep refused to come. His mind raced through every memory, every warning sign he had ignored. Ryan asking for help. Ryan promising repayment. Ryan disappearing for days at a time when things went wrong. Ethan had always been the safety net. This time, the net had torn. The next morning, Ethan woke early and went for a run, hoping movement would quiet his thoughts. The city was waking up, dog walkers, joggers, delivery trucks. Normal life continued, even as his own felt cracked open. He checked his phone again. Nothing from Ryan. By noon, Ethan had filed reports, locked down what accounts he could, and accepted the hard truth: the money was unlikely to come back. The bank staff were sympathetic but firm. Shared access meant shared risk. That afternoon, Ethan's mother called. "Have you heard from your brother?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Ethan closed his eyes. "No, have you?" She hesitated. That pause told him everything. He said he was traveling, just for a bit. Ethan didn't argue. He didn't explain. He simply said goodbye and hung up. By the second evening, anger finally arrived, but it wasn't loud. It was heavy. It pressed on his chest as he sat alone on the balcony, city lights blinking below. Claire had gone to bed early, exhausted from worrying. Ethan stared at his phone, willing it to ring. It didn't. He thought about the future he had been building. The engagement ring he'd been quietly saving for. The house he and Claire had talked about. All of it felt suddenly uncertain, fragile. He wasn't just mourning money, he was mourning trust. Late that night, rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady. Ethan stood by the window, watching drops race down the glass. That was when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. His heart jumped. He answered, "Hello." What came through the line wasn't an apology or an explanation. It was Ryan's voice, loud, frantic, unraveling. "Ethan, have to listen to me. Everything went wrong. Didn't mean for this to happen." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone as the shouting continued, fast and breathless. Ryan talked about bad deals, about people he trusted, about money that was gone. He talked about consequences closing in. Not once did he ask how Ethan was. Not once did he say he was. "Sorry." Ethan leaned against the wall, rain tapping against the window beside him, and felt something shift inside. This wasn't a brother calling home. This was a man calling for rescue. And for the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't sure he was going to answer that call the way he always had. The rain grew heavier outside as Ryan kept talking, his voice shaking, desperation spilling through the phone. Ethan listened in silence, realizing that whatever came next would change everything. The phone line cracked, Ryan's voice raw and shaking, echoing through the small apartment like a siren. "Ethan, please, you have to help me. I don't know what to do." Ethan gripped the phone tighter, his knuckles white. He could hear it all at once. Panic, fear, regret, and something more, desperation, that made the words tumble out in a rush. 2 days ago, Ryan had vanished, taken every dime Ethan had trusted him with. And now he was screaming as if the world itself was ending. "You stole my money," Ethan said quietly, his voice low, calm, carrying a weight that made Ryan pause mid-sentence. "You left me with nothing." "Stole? No, Ethan. Listen, it wasn't like that. I told you I'd pay it back. I swear, I just had messed up. They came after me. Everything is collapsing. You have to believe me. Please, I can't." Ryan's words came out in a rush, pleading, almost incoherent. Ethan felt the heat of betrayal flare, sharp and bright, cutting through the panic in Ryan's voice. The room felt smaller, claustrophobic. He sank into a chair, gripping the edge, trying to steady himself. "You called me only when it was about you," he said. "Not once did you check if I was okay. Not once." There was silence. Just the shaky inhale of a man realizing for the first time that his brother wasn't going to fall for excuses. "Any more, Ethan?" "Please," Ryan whispered, voice cracking, almost broken. "I just need someone to tell them it was a misunderstanding. Just say it was a mistake." Ethan's mind raced. He thought of the long nights he'd worked overtime, of Claire quietly keeping their life running while he focused on protecting his family's finances. He thought of every promise Ryan had broken, every time he'd trusted him and had been burned. And yet, he couldn't help but feel the flicker of old love for his brother, the bond that went back to scraped knees. Backyard fights, childhood secrets, and shared laughter. But love wasn't blind. "Not this time. I can't," Ethan said firmly, surprising even himself at how steady the words were. I can't save you from the consequences of your choices. What, you're going to let me sink? Ryan's voice rose, desperate, sharp. After everything? We're brothers. Ethan felt a familiar pain twist in his chest, the ache that came when family failed in the one place you expect loyalty most. You abandoned me first, Ryan, he said. 2 days ago, you took my money, disappeared. Now you want me to clean up your mess. No, not this time. There was a long silence. Ryan's breathing became ragged. You really mean that? Yes, Ethan replied softly. I mean it. I can't protect you from what you've done, and I won't. The line went quiet for a long moment, the only sound Ryan's. Uneven breaths, broken by the occasional soft sniffle. Then, I understand, he said finally, the defiance gone, replaced by something raw, vulnerable, and real. I guess I needed to hear that, even if it hurts. Ethan didn't respond. He let Ryan speak, let him unravel for a while, knowing there was nothing he could do but listen. That, too, was part of being a brother, sometimes the toughest. Lessons came without protection, without saving. When he finally hung up, Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't a closure. But it was a boundary line drawn after too many times being pushed, too many promises broken. He sat in silence, the hum of the city outside his window, feeling the storm of the past 2 days slowly settling. Claire came out of the bedroom. Rubbing her eyes, "Are you okay?" she asked, voice gentle. She had been listening from the other room, not intruding, letting him process. Ethan looked at her, the apartment dim except for the streetlight casting patterns on the floor. He took a deep breath. I think so. It's over. For now. She sat beside him on the couch, leaning into his shoulder. I was scared this would ruin everything, she said quietly. But seeing you stand your ground like that, it made me realize something. You're not just surviving, you're choosing yourself. That matters. Ethan nodded. He thought about Ryan, probably somewhere out west now, trying to patch together a life he'd nearly destroyed. No calls, no apologies, just the empty echo of his desperation over the phone. And Ethan realized he didn't need to fix that. Not this time. In the days and weeks that followed, he rebuilt his finances slowly, cautiously. Every bill, every transfer, every phone call to the bank became a reminder that he could survive this and thrive even after betrayal. Claire stayed by his side, her steady presence a comfort that made the world feel less chaotic, less unfair. One evening, as they walked along the river, golden city lights shimmering across the water, Ethan told Claire about the call, the panic in Ryan's voice, the weight he had felt listening. Claire held his hand tightly. You did the right thing, she said softly. Love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you repeatedly. You can care about him and still protect yourself. Ethan looked at her, realizing she was right. Hurt, the betrayal, the frantic call, he could carry all that without letting it define him. He could forgive in heart, but not give permission to be hurt again. Weeks later, a message came from his mother. Ryan was figuring things out. Vague as ever, no details, no apologies. Ethan read it, felt the familiar pang of disappointment, and then put his phone down. The chapter wasn't closed, but it didn't control him anymore. That night, sitting beside Claire, Ethan watched the sunset streak the sky with pink and gold. He felt the warmth of her hand in his, the steady heartbeat of someone who truly had his back. And for the first time since the theft, since the panic, since the betrayal, he felt peace. Ryan had called screaming, desperate, needing help. But Ethan had answered differently this time. Not by giving in, not by rescuing him from his mistakes, but by choosing himself, by standing firm, by valuing his own life and the life he was building with Claire. He realized then that some bonds are meant to teach you lessons, not protect you from pain. And sometimes the bravest, most mature choice is to love from a distance while keeping yourself whole. Ethan smiled faintly, the first genuine smile in days. He didn't need Ryan to fix anything. He didn't need the money back. He didn't even need the apology. What he needed was clarity, peace, and the knowledge that he could survive, thrive, and love even after betrayal. And as the sun disappeared behind the horizon, painting the water in fire and gold, Ethan held Claire's hand a little tighter and finally let himself believe that the future could be brighter than the past, no matter what shadows lingered. Because some losses teach you more than any gain ever could. Some calls, no matter how desperate, show you the strength you didn't know you had. And some heartbreaks, like Ryan's betrayal, become the very reason you find the courage to choose yourself, to protect those you love, and to walk forward without fear. Ethan had learned the lesson in the loudest, most chaotic way possible. But he had learned it, and that made all the difference. The city lights flickered, the river flowed, and life went on. And for Ethan, for the first time in days, that felt enough.